Hello, every pony, and welcome back to uh, Fandom Fridays, where we proceed to check out all the fanfics that are not pony related. Why? I think you might know why by now. Oh, you're probably wondering why I'm a little sleepy right now. That's because I spent all of last night waiting at the airport for my cousin to come over. And I also had to modify my the brand new, and very expensive studio into a bedroom for him. Luckily, I'm currently using my spare studio down here in the basement. It's okay, it's got all the same enemies, it's just missing the security system. Which means I do happen to have a chance of random ghouls showing up or my little brother stepping in to annoy me at random moments. So, what is on the docket today? I think we should go for a little Ghostbuster crossover because I realize it's about time. I haven't done anything Ghostbuster related in a while, and I haven't especially done anything Danny fan related. So without further ado, say here as we hear at the Terryberry Memorial Library, I'm proud to present. Oh. The Ghost Child of the Ghostbusters by Agent G. Enjoy. Ghost Child of the Ghostbusters by Agent G. Chapter 1. Who you gonna call? It was just your average day in Amity Park. A real nice sunny day. Perfect weather. It was a very nice and relaxing day. In the middle of downtown, people were going about their business, doing whatever they did that day. Some were just walking their parks, children looking through the glass of a toy store at all the things they were seeming to buy. Someone was watching in front of the store. All in all, it was a normal day. That is, until a form fell from the sky, crashing to a parked car, denting the top of it. People ran screaming as the second figure hovered down to the first form. It was a large, pale-looking ghost with armor and high-tech weapons. He had a mane of green glowing ghost hair and a skull-like face. He laughed as he whirled over the smaller form beneath him. He was Skulker, the great hunter of the ghost zone. He spent his time hunting down the rarest of ghosts for his ever-growing collection. He was currently battling, once again, his all-time favorite prey and most elusive, the Haifa, Danny Phantom. The second form of Danny slowly got up, shaking cobwebs out of his head. He was a young man of over 14 years in a black and white costume with a white D-like symbol on his chest. He had white hair with glowing green eyes. Danny was in not a good mood besides the obvious of being turned into a hood ornament. He had just been minding his own business when his two close friends, Sam and Tucker, when his ghost sense went off. So, of course, he went to see who was causing trouble. Turning to his alter ego, Danny Pham, and soon found himself in a familiar brawl with Skulker. Ugh, come on, Skulker, do we really have to do this?
Oh, trust me, Ghost Child, we do.
He grinned as he raised his hand with a gauntlet weapon attached to it and fired off several rounds of high-powered ectoplasmic energy. Danny's eyes widened as he turned intangible at the last moment, the rounds passing through him harmlessly. The car wasn't so far into it blew up from the impact. Oh man, I hope that guy had insurance for that, Danny thought. He really hated how much damage these little fights could cause. Although, what he didn't know was that the insurance companies make a killing with all the new ghost insurance policies people have started to take out ever since ghosts started to show up in the city. Danny flew up and turned invisible as he slammed into the bigger ghost, making him fly off and slam into a building. Oh, come on, Skulker! How many times have we done this? I mean, you know how it goes. You show up, cause trouble, call me Ghost Child a few times, then we fight, and I use up kicking your ugly butt and sending you back into the ghost zone again. I mean, it's like, what, 24 to nothing?
I seem to recall a few defeats of your own, Ghost Child.
He sat back as he got up and pulled out a heavy-looking weapon and fired again, not letting up on the momentum of the flight. Danny rolled his eyes. Okay, so maybe you got a few points in there, but I'm way ahead. Hey! Watch it with those! The last shot nearly taking Danny's hair off as he was dodging all the shots. Okay, now I'm getting pissed. With that, he fired his own ecto-energy blast at Skulker, The larger ghost was quick despite his size. It dodged many of Danny's shots. Come on, Danny, think! You've beaten before, so this shouldn't be too much of a problem. Man, this sucks. We were planning on seeing that new movie this afternoon, too. Oh well, maybe we can catch the late show. Danny put his mind back into the fight, as he narrowly missed some of the ghosts catching net his old foe fired at him. Danny dropped from the sky, dropped through the street into the sewers below. Skulker stood there, scanning the area, wondering what it was up to. Just then, he burst from the street and turned intangible at the last moment to deliver an uppercut to Skulker. He corrected for the flow, flying several feet away, making a small groove in the street from it. The ghost hunter grunted as he picked himself up.
A nice shot, Brett, but it'll take more than that to stop me.
He pulled out a pair of guns and started to fire at Danny. Oh, man! He groaned as he started dodging his shots. He hid behind another parked car and tried to think. He needed to get a bit closer and keep him preoccupied, too, since he had to use the threatened thermos, an invention of his parents that he used to catch ghosts. Mainly it was just a metallic-looking thermos that could pull in a ghost and hold them. He had a small plan, though. It would depend on how riled up Skulker could get. Hey, Skulker! You shoot like a girl! How did you catch all those ghosts you claimed to have gotten anyway? They just felt sorry for you and you let them take them?
Why, you insolent little brat! I'll have you know, my name is feared in the Ghost Zone for a very good reason, one which you'll find out personally.
He kept on firing at the vehicle until it was a smoking pile of ruin.
Ha! Let's see you run now. What?
He looked at the smoke clear to see Danny wasn't there any longer. Instead, he felt a presence behind him. He turned to see Danny with the Fenton thermos at the ready and a smile on his face. He turned invisible and got behind Skulker when he was trying to find his hiding spot. Gotcha! He simply said, activating the device. Green energy came out, and Skulker cried out in defiance and just pulled into it. Whew! Deal with you later. First things first, I'm going to check on the others to see if I can salvage the rest of the day. Then, it's back to the Ghost Zone for you, Skulker. Danny said to the device as he flew off, not noticing the TV crew had been at the scene. That was the scene today downtown as once again a battle between ghosts happened. Came the report on the large TV. The news was turned off as it was sitting in the large office of Mayor of Amity Park. He was behind a desk after watching the report and wasn't happy. Not at all. All these ghosts were ruining his town and they had to be stopped. Those Fentons were practically useless. Had he ever caught one ghost? He couldn't remember. And then there was that mysterious red-clad figure as well. He needed help. Real help. He looked into various ghost hunters before, but there was one group he felt they could maybe help him out. They couldn't have been Reese last time, but maybe he would have better luck. At least, they seemed to be experienced professionals. He pushed on the intercom on his desk for his secretary.
Grace, get me the Ghostbusters.
In Manhattan, at an intersection stood an old firehouse that was a few stories tall in rectangular shape. Although it had been converted a few years ago by its new owners, the signs at the front showing a white ghost in a red circle with a line through it was proof of that. It was the headquarters of the Ghostbusters, the most famed group of men that fought the paranormal. It was, however, a slow downtime for them. There was another lull in ghost activity. This happened now and then. Hitting a dry spell wasn't something new. At times like that, downtime, although 2 months of this was never good for business. One time it got literally so bad, they turned their ghost hunting equipment to catching human criminals. But they weren't at that point just yet. In the main lobby of the garage of the building, Ecto 1, their modified medical examiner car, was being worked up by Winston Zedmore. He wore a light blue jumpsuit, had dark skin and short black hair. Unlike the others, he had joined up later and wasn't a scientist. He was just your average Joe who answered a help wanted ad, although he didn't know that he would find a job and a way in a brotherhood. He and the others were as close as friends could get. They worked and lived together, fought together, and they made him feel like a part of this little family. He also had his own skills, like that of a grade A mechanic, so Ecto 1 was always running smoothly. He was also the most level-headed one of the group, balancing out the rest of the team. He was currently under Ecto 1, working on a few kinks that got into the old girl now and then. The car had been heavily modified, from the white paint job all the way to the ghost equipment that put on top of it that looked like it came out of a sci-fi novel. All that extra weight really did a number on the shocks. Sitting at her desk was the secretary, Jamie Melanitz. She was bored with no phone calls, so was doing her nails in green paint. Her glasses were slipping slightly as she adjusted them, I ran a hand through her short red hair. Almighty Celestia on high, I beg thee, please, please let this be the early seasons of real Ghostbusters. Please don't let it be the later seasons. I beg you. I want this to be good. In spite of the fact that Takama has somehow disappeared from the rest of the story. She sighed. It almost seemed like she was either too busy or just really bored. The guys got all the excitement out of the job, while she just got to stay here in this place. Although, to be fair, she did have her moments. Like when the Sandman was putting all of New York asleep, and she managed to dream herself a Ghostbuster and save the day. That memory always made her feel proud, and brought out a smile. Though, there were negative points about the job. Like how they left her on a modified treadmill to power the containment unit, so all the ghosts didn't get out when New York was blacked out by a spirit. She never really fully forgave them for forgetting about her for so long. And then there were other parts, like when she accidentally released the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse from that book. So why wasn't she stuck around? Well, the guys would be lost without her. Slimer needed her too. And then there was the other reason. She liked the boys, one in particular. Out of all the men, why did she have to fall for Egon Spengler? Because he's voiced by Maurice LaMarche, and Maurice LaMarche is an awesome voice actor. Sure, he was cute in the scientist type of thing, but he was so clueless it seemed. She tried flirting in so many ways, but nothing worked. At times, she thought that they may get somewhere, but other times it was like totally oblivious to her feelings about him. He was always nice to her, too, so she couldn't be mad at him. Not really. And I swear if that genie from Jamie You Changed shows up, I got a proton pack with his name on it! She sighed again, and decided to finish off her nails, thinking about her love life, or lack thereof, just depressed her. Upstairs in the lab of the 2 others were working on another experiment. Reed Stantz, who was about average height, with light brown hair, was working with his counterpart Egon. The 2 had even thought they were both very smart, but were totally different in everything else. Egon was blonde, very tall and thin, while Ray was a little on the heavy side. Not fat, he just had a little extra weight around the main waist. Ray was always so eager, in a way kind of like innocent soon. Strange for a grown man. Egon was totally different. He was the most serious and reserved out of the entire group. At the moment, they were working on a new device he would hope would bring out with the certain beings he came across. He just didn't handle ghosts. He also dealt with powers, spirits, ectoplasmic entities, demons, and the occasional god or being. The last grouping usually ended up being the most difficult and dangerous they face, usually in one of those end-of-the-world type things.
Okay, so hopefully this device will strip away the layers of power or energy that is fulfilling the target.
Egon was working on the final calibrations for this phase of the device. They had been working on this off and on for over 6 months, but it would hopefully be worth it. Yeah, and it just works. We never did figure out how to test something like this. Ray was a little worried. It was a good idea on paper, but it was kind of hard to test to see if it would actually work. Egon nodded his head.
Yes, unfortunately to test it out we would need a being of immense power, and I seriously doubt one will just show up and hold still for long for us to test it out.
Maybe we could try someone for the containment unit. How about Sam Hain? He's the spirit of Halloween, after all, a major power. Ray asked him, cheerfully thinking it was a good idea. Egon just shambled and looked like he was nuts. Letting out a spirit that once tried to turn the entire world into a never-ending Halloween night, with the ghosts running around all the world was not a good idea. Thankfully, Ray got the point and didn't say anything else as he went to work. Okay, let's try powering her up and see what happens, Ray said after 15 more minutes of work. He really hoped it would work. They stood back as Egon went to a small computer station and started out the process. There was a loud humming noise, which was a good sign, but then it just wavered, and there was a winding down as it just fizzled out, smoke rising off of it. Both men sighed. Something else was wrong with it now.
Maybe the particle flow is off,
Egon offered. Or maybe we need to recalibrate the power flow. Neither one of them knew where to start, but only they had more work ahead of them. Before that happened, a large and very familiar yell went out. Both men looked at each other. They both knew that yell. It was Peter Venkman's. I only let out that yell that was a mixture of disgust and anger for one thing. Oh boy, I wonder what Slimer did this time, Ray said, although he knew the answer, or at least could guess. In fact, at that moment, the friendly ghost Slimer came through the door screaming, leaving a trail of slime as he went through the door. The little slime ball of a ghost was pretty much harmless unless he were food, or unless he were in the later seasons of Ghostbusters. You are never going to let that down. Absolutely not! Somehow Slimer could eat and just not stop. He flew behind Ray in his strangled, babbling noise, with only words like Ray and Peter were being the only words. Then the door kicked in with an enraged Peter there, and the proton pack strapped to his back. He was a little taller with brown hair, kind of his sort if he wasn't covered in green slime. Where is he? That little spud has spied me for the last time. I swear, this time I'm blasting him. Peter, would you please not have that in here? We have valuable equipment. I really not going to get damaged. Egon said, stepping in front of him. But I really want to blast him this time, Egon. This is the third time this month he's slimed me, and my dry cleaner won't take my clothing anymore. Thankfully, at that point, a sound was heard from below them. It was actually the phone. And ringing a week, and everyone was eager for a job. Is that the phone? Ray yelled excitedly as he ran to the pool onto this floor as something he wanted to keep from the old firefighter days. He stepped onto it and slid down. Wilson was already by Janie's desk, because he heard talk on the phone when Ray arrived. Peter followed suit. However, he was covered in slime, and his sliding down the pole was a lot faster, and landing hard on his rump. He grumbled something about finding a certain ghost later on as he limped to the desk.
Okay, sir. Yeah, we'd love to help you clean up your town. Uh-huh, yeah, sir. Oh, they're professionals. You can trust them. Okay, sir. They'll be right over.
Janie smiled as he put down the phone, seeing all the eager faces.
We got a job.
Great! Where is it? Ray asked, looking at a kid like a candy store.
In some town called Enemy Park. The mayor himself called us to help with the ghost problem in it.
Oh yeah, I heard that place. That place has an unusual amount of ghost activity for a city of its size. Ray remembered reading about the town. He always hoped to go there since it was actually a bit of a hotspot.
Yeah, I remember hearing about some things in that town too.
Winston agreed, remembering something about news stories. If he recalled, there was something of a ghost kid that showed up now and again. Well, now how come we never went there before if the place is still haunted? Peter asked, looking for a towel he kept behind Jeannie's workstation. It was like a little small office. After being sliced so many times, he put towels in certain places for this kind of emergency. I'm surprised he never called us for help for now.
Actually, they did. I remember getting a call to join up with this ghost hunting bounty they caught a while ago.
Jeannie told him. I saw a surprised look. They were at and out of town on another case. It couldn't have joined up. Peter nodded, accepting it. After so many cases, they just kind of blurred together most of the time. He wasn't sure which out-of-town job they had been on that time, so he just let it drop. Yeah, I mean, like that one time they handled this demon named Crowley. I mean, yeah, he was trying to pull out all these sort of deals, but a proton pack into the face guy took him down in 5 seconds. This could be a very good opportunity to study on a full haunting on this level. Egon was walking down the stairs after seeing Pierce fall. He decided to take the safer way. Amity Park has an equal level to that of New York, even though it isn't the size of Manhattan. That level of ghost activity is unusual. There has to be a reason why so many ghosts keep just showing there. Well then, let's get packing. That is, as soon as I take a shower. Peter walked up to the stairs to the living room, where the bedroom was. Danny was just now getting around to disposing of Skulker through the Fenton portal. It was a large metallic circle with a swirly green vortex that led to the ghost zone. It had been an accident with this device that given him his ghost powers as well. Now back in his human form, he was in his usual white t-shirt with blue jeans. His hair once more black and his eyes blue again. There you go, Skulker. See you around later? He shut the security doors, closing up the portal. I can't believe you forgot that Skulker was in there for over a day, Danny, said Sam, one of his closest friends. She was a goth girl, all in black, t-shirt, skirt, and even her hair in a ponytail. Hey, take it easy, you know. Dave's got a lot on his plate. This was from Tucker, an African-American boy with his red baseball cap on backwards, thick glasses on his face, and yellow t-shirt on. He has PDA in his hand, as usual at scene. Tucker was pretty much a computer addict, and never far from anything electronic. Sadly, just laid him on a geek in school. Thanks, Tuck. And I had planned on putting him away but then I had to do all that homework, and then on the way to school there was a ghost attack, another after it, and it just kind of snowballed. Danny shrugged and Sam shrugged. She couldn't blame him really for anything. Well, at least you didn't keep him in there for days, Sam said. Tucker smiled. Yeah, imagine how pissed at you he'd be next time. Danny groaned and trying not to think of that. Skulker was one of his toughest enemies, and having him really pissed off at him wasn't something he wanted to happen. Danny placed the thermos back amongst the other inventions in his parents' lab. The place was littered with strange ghost equipment, given his parents were professional ghost hunters. Although they really hadn't caught a ghost, oddly enough, even though there was some of their equipment was pretty good. Once he got past either the bizarre name or appearance. Hey, the Fenton Ghost Oven Mitts were a stroke of genius! I don't know what you were talking about! They were awesome!
They were just oven mitts.
Ah! But they were oven mitts with the name Fenton on them. Well, at least things could be quiet for a while anyway, Danny says as they climb the stairs. I mean, I usually get a little small calm before someone like Vlad or Walker or someone decides to get into my life. Yeah, for a kid that's still in high school, I have to say, Danny, you sure got yourself on a hell of a list of enemies. Sam joked as they made it to the main floor of the Fenton home. He should see Spider-Man when he was 16.
I don't believe this!
The voice of Jack Fenton could be heard from the kitchen. Now, Jack, calm down. His mother's Maddie's voice could be heard.
Calm down! But after all we've done to bring in those glory hounds into our city!
The three teens looked at each other confused as they wandered to the kitchen seeing his parents. Jack, a slightly heavy man with gray and black hair, his wife Maddie with her short red hair, and Jazz, Danny's older sister with long red hair, looking just as confused. As he heard the noise and got into the room to the other door. Jazz, do you know what's going on? No idea, Danny, she said honestly. She had never seen her father so riled up before. Mom, what's going on? You're resisting the urge to do your Zora voice, aren't you? I can't help it! The new Digimon movie's coming out! Oh, nothing. Your father's just overreacting, that's all.
Overreacting?
Jack said, surprised by that, and hung up the newspaper.
You call this overreacting?
Mayor calls in Ghostbusters to clean up town. Danny read the front of the article. Wait, the Ghostbusters? The guys from New York? Whoa, talk about the heavy hitters. I mean, I've heard about them. Sam had also heard they had a good rep for being very good at their jobs. For a moment, he actually got a little worried. Like some of the other ghost hunters that had shown up, the Ghostbusters were kind of famous. Oh, come on, they can't be that good. Can they? Danny asked her. He heard of them too, but he didn't really know all that much. He didn't pay much attention to any other ghost hunters out there. Well, except Val, but then again, she was usually the one trying to gun him, or more precisely, his other self down whenever she saw him.
Of course not! Jack said defiantly. I can hunt down ghosts better than they can.
Just then, he got an idea as his face lit up. It was a look both Danny and Jazz knew might not end well for them at all.
In fact, I will. I will show everyone that the Fentons are the top ghost hunters in town. Come on, Maddie, we have much work to do.
He ran out the room like a kid heading for a toy sale. Then he decided guess he should help out her husband. If just to make sure he didn't go overboard.
Jack Fenton going overboard?
Perish the thought. I'll let you know when he brings out the Fenton bazooka. When you're gone, Jazz looked at the others. I don't know about this. Do any of you know much about the Ghostbusters? I mean, I've seen them on TV a couple of times, but I don't know much. Do you think they could be trouble for you, Danny? Danny knew what she was talking about. It wasn't long ago that he found out that she had known all about his secret as Danny Phantom. Although, it was nice to have his big sister on it. She had been useful now and then. That is, when she wasn't directly helping him out. Now she was just helping for the sidelines when she could.
I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, how much trouble could they be?
Tucker was already working on his laptop.
I don't know, Danny. They seem to have a lot of web pages dedicated to them. There's a lot of information here, but so far what I'm seeing isn't very encouraging. Yeah, well, I've handled the men in white. How much trouble could they be compared to those guys?
He looked around at 3 faces, giving him a look that said,
Who are you kidding?
Let me guess. Famous last words? He asked. Sam nodded her head with her arms crossed. Bingo! But let's find out what we can about those guys just to be on the safe side. We should be prepared for when they come. When did they come here? Jazz picked up the paper her father had thrown onto the table and started to skim through the article. It was just a PR piece, nothing really major. Just the mayor trying to show that he was doing something about the ghosts that kept on attacking the town. Let's see here. Ah, here we go. Oh, they'll be here in a few days.
Not much time to do research.
Tucker said, still typing. He was saving any and all data he could find on the Ghostbusters. It would take their time to sift through it all, to separate fact from fiction, and cross-reference it with the data from any other sources. With the usual homework in helping out Danny, this could take a little time, but he was up for the challenge. Awesome Ghostbuster moments. Ghostbusters take down Cthulhu.
That happened! I'm positive there's an episode where the Ghostbusters took down Cthulhu!
Well, I'm sorry I could help with that at least. Jess offered the group. It was the least she could do.
Sure, you'll see why not.
Danny told her. It was a pretty safe thing for her to do, so he couldn't get in the way of something as simple like that either. He just hoped they were all doing this for nothing. What could they possibly do when they got here anyway? The Ghost Zone. Flat Plasmius, or Flat Masters in human form, were searching for the Ghost Zone again. He was pale in his ghost form, with a white suit and a matching cape, and a forked black hairstyle as well. He was currently looking for something. The Ghost Zone held many things he could make use of, that is, if he could find it. The Ghost Zone was pretty much pure chaos, a swirling vortex with an infinite number of floating doors, landmasses, and other things. He usually hired ghosts from here, offering them a way out of the Ghost Zone, or something he could provide. In a moment, he was looking for a certain temple that was supposed to be here. While looking for anything about the Ghost Zone, he found an old book in an auction. In it went on to describe how a powerful spirit had been banished to the Ghost Zone. Well, that's as much as he could translate, and it was a very old language, and his computers had little trouble with the translations. I'm sorry, Master, but I was busy with the Flat Jack program.
Bloody!
But from what he could gather, this powerful spirit could be the key to defeating Danny. He did like the boy. In fact, he tried so many times to try to groom him to a successor. But the boy was stubborn, for some reason loyal to that idiot father of his. Well, with this new ghost he could defeat Danny, kill Jack, and finally have Maddie to himself. The thought always made him smile.
Now, let's see here. The temple should be around here, I think. Then this Morbius should be in there.
Morbius, as it turned out, had been some powerful ghost that was said to have powers over other spirits. Given that Vlad was only half ghost, he was fairly confident that he was outside of Morbius's control. Besides, all the research said he had no powers over the living, so it only stood to reason, at least in his eyes, that he should be safe. He still remembered that whole thing with Pariah Dark. This time he was sure he could control this ghost. Then, it finally came into view the temple he was looking for. He grinned as he landed on the dark and ancient stones. Looking around him, he saw the place was decorated skeletons, ghostly images, and other things of this nature.
Well, this is a certainly depressing place, but as long as he's as powerful as the book says, I can overlook his drab sense of style. Plus, there is one other little backup insurance in case he was wrong about him not being immune to ghost powers.
He grinned as he put a small device in his hands. This time, he would be prepared. He spent time at the Pariah Dark developing a device to control ghosts, and he was going to use it on this one. Vlad walked through the massive stone corridors. He knocked all the images carved to the walls that they showed. They weren't important enough for him, and soon he came to a large door.
It had to be at least 15 feet tall. It looked very thick as well. "Oh my! A locked door! Oh, whatever shall I do?" he said sarcastically, before phasing and trying to go through the wall, but was repelled by some strange voice. "Buttercups!" I should have known this was too easy. He picked himself up and looked over the door. It was covered in strange glyphs, and it was most likely some type of enchantment or something that would unlock it. That is, after much studying, he could open the door in maybe a month or two. Unfortunately, patience isn't one of my virtues. With that, he charged up his powers to try to force open the door. He fired much of his energy into the doorway. And Fierce immediately absorbed it, the symbols taking on a strange glow. First they were green, but as Vlad put more and more energy, they started to turn red. Vlad wasn't about to get up, and he poured on the power. It wasn't until he was nearly drained of all his ghost power, it felt like it would start to dark when the door finally shattered. Well, let's just hope it's more than one door. He muttered to himself, walking tirelessly through the hole. He came to the large chamber, and there, in the center, what looked like a tomb. It was made out of gold and silver. It looked like to be large bars around it. Vlad just removed the bars and pulled out a piece of paper. The book said he had to recite a certain spell to open it and revive Morbius. Alright, let's see here. Orifitas Redicula, Morbius Resurrectus, Fataminis Onomas Morbius, Unas Exota Turguta. At first there was nothing, and he frowned at looking at the paper. Oh, footsickles! I should have known that these words were spelled out phonetically. But he had spoken the words correctly, as the tomb started to glow and the lid shook. Soon it started to move, and a red light was glowing out of the crack. The cover of stone moved a bit more, and lost the air with great force. A figure started to rise out of the tomb. He was pale and slender in black robes. The hood was pulled up and his mouth was covered. The eyes were as black as night as the frail form rose from his long slumber. I live again. The voice was like gravel, rough and cold. Vlad wasted no time and placed his collar around the neck. Ha! What? Who dares to place this on Morbius? He looked at Vlad and started to rise up. His powers were very weak, but he still had enough power to deal with this insolent little spirit. You shall suffer for your impudence. I think not. Vlad pushed the button, and Morbius growled out in pain, as the collar sent a jolt of pain into his body. The device is something I came up with. I released you, but you will do my bidding. If you refuse, then you're no real use to me. I'll use the collar to turn you into ectoplasmic goo. Morbius's dead eyes took on a small red glow. But in his current state, he was no shape to battle the stranger. But as soon as he regained his lost powers, he would soon have the power to make this ghost pay. But there was something odd about this ghost. He had a human spirit embedded into it. It was a strange thing he was sensing, but he would look into that later. He saw that Vlad was waiting for an answer. Very well. It seems I am at your mercy. Very good. Now then, I need you to go out and start using your powers for all the good reasons. Destruction, mayhem, the usual thing. I cannot. Vlad stared down for a moment. Say again. My powers have been stripped from me when I was imprisoned. I need to replenish my powers to regain my lost strength. Morbius told him, and Vlad pinched the end of his nose. It was always something to see that he was asked to do exactly what he needed. Morbius grinned under his mask as he told him. He needed spirits. Close to be exact. He drew his power from absorbing the power of ghosts in their energy. Well then, we're in the ghost zone. You should be able to find as many ghosts as you need. Vlad grinned. Maybe this wouldn't be a total loss after all. Elsewhere, in the ghost zone. In his tower, the ghost that looked over all time, Clockwork, always seemed to form from a toddler to someone in the middle of their life to that of an old man. His staff and cloak and ever-present in these forms was looking out over through her gear. The center of it showing Vlad and Morbius. It happened, came a voice that Clockwork hated to hear. It was one of the observants. Merely just bodies with huge eyeballs that kept on bucking him about things that needed to be fixed. They all saw, but in the end, the Watchers were just useless. Unable to do anything for themselves, they tried to get him to do all their dirty work. I know. Morbius was about to get out at some point, and it is now, Clockwork said in an even tone. You can't let this continue, you know. What Morbius is, and what he's capable of if he reaches his full power, one of the servants told him nervously. Clockwork did know. Morbius was so dangerous that even Clockwork was worried about him. After all, he remembered what Morbius was like at the height of his power. Most of that dark time had been erased by time. He still remembered, and so did a few others. It'll either work out, or it won't. You mean that Danny boy? The second servant said in contempt. I don't see what you do in that boy, but he can't even stand up to the likes of Morbius. For beings that are supposed to be all-knowing, you should pay more attention. Clockwork says the image shifted to that of a strange white car making its way to Amity Park. Danny will have some help with this one. Those four have already faced those that are Morbius's equal, if not even more powerful entities. Those mortals. They are also trouble, Clockwork. You've seen how they deal with things. We'll be lucky if they are worse than Morbius. Do you honestly think they'll work with a ghost? Well, I'll admit the first meeting will be a bit rough. But trust me, I know what I'm doing. They're the only ones that can help young Danny with what's about to come. He then looked at the image of the Ghostbusters again. That is, if they don't blast poor Danny before he can convince him that he's one of the good guys. Strange. I should know what is to come, but the future's getting slightly muddy. Must be Morbius's powers. They're so powerful in the future that they are scaring even my sight at the time. This wasn't encouraging. He hated when something like this happened. It rarely happened, was also in a way scared him. He hated the unknown, but he had to put his faith into something. And these five would be in the key of what the future he was certain of. The road to Amity Park, the Ecto 1 was roaming the highway. Winston was driving as Egon was next to him, reading up on the history of town. Ray was there behind him, with Peter and Slimer also with them. Although he was riding on the roof, since Peter was still angry at him, and the team thought it was best to keep him out of the way. In fact, they didn't know Slimer had taken long until they had left New York State, when a cooler of food that he had brought was suddenly found empty, and full of slime. Wait, slime is ecto energy. That was ecto slime in a cooler. So that's where the missing ecto cooler is! Are we there yet?
Peter asked as he slothed through in the back in his brown jumpsuit, staying lighter than his hair. It was out of place as he tucked it back into its place.
Peter, man, you've asked that about 8 times in the past hour. Give it a rest, will you?
Winston said over his shoulder, feeling a little stressed at this. At times, Peter could like be a spoiled kid when he was bored. It was one of these reasons they hated these cross-country trips, but they couldn't have flown the Ecto 1 in here such a short amount of time, so they went for the long way there.
Yeah, but I'm getting bored. There's nothing out here. My Game Boy died 2 hours ago, and Egon won't let me get new batteries. And Ray's breath is kind of bad after that lunch he had.
Hey! Ray protested, although he did have extra onions with that hot dog he had. His tan suit was lucky to get any stains, given how he had eaten that thing.
We're near there, Peter,
Egon said from the front, as he was reading a print from out of town. Peter leaned forward, looking at the seats over his shoulder.
Okay, Egon. Time to share with the rest of the class. What's got you so interested in those pages? No, wait. Let me guess. This place was buried on some ancient Indian holy land or something. Or some crazy and very bad guy lived there and then cursed the land. Actually, what has me so interested is nothing.
Now everyone was paying attention.
Before all the ghosts started to show up, there was no supernatural activity in the region. It was pretty much, if you'll excuse the pun, a dead zone for the dead. There's nothing major that happened in this area that would account for all the ghosts showing up, at least nothing supernatural.
But that makes no sense, Ray said. I mean, there has to be something. Witch Coven? Some order that was looking into supernatural? Or some eccentric looking for immortality?
Man, that's weird. Usually there's something that causes stuff like this.
Winston may not have been a scientist like the others, but after years of experience on the job, he picked up a few things here and there.
I checked it all out. There is nothing supernatural in the town's history.
Egon pulled out another sheet.
However, there does appear to be a married couple that moved into the town to research into the paranormal. They claim to be some type of ghost hunters. He published a few papers on the subject and I looked them up. They were very unorthodox, and although many of their theories were pure conjecture and had little actual research, they did make a few interesting theories. Maybe we should look them up. Peter suggested to them, after all, if they are into business, maybe they know something about all these ghosts showing up. You got an address on them? Yes, and I think you may be right. It would help with our investigation. Well, guys, you can ask them soon, because it looks like we're here,
Winston said as they passed a sign that said, "Welcome to Amity Park," on the side of the road. They drove into the town and looked at it very normal, a pretty typical small town that you expect. He got a few strange looks from the car, but it was only a passing glance. With Jack Fenton living in town, they've seen stranger things. They moved through the town looking around as they tried to find their way into the Fentons' home. This is a nice place, Ray said looking out the window. Hard to believe they got a ghost problem. Hey, check the PK meter and see what type of reaction we get. Egon pulled out the small handheld device. It had a rounded handle at the bottom and a square box with a readout screen and a few dials on it. He pulled out the top part in a thing of red metal and had two scanners. They were long, slender, and rounded with yellow lights at the tips. At first, he got a reading, but he knew that had to be Slimer, who had gone to sleep in the now empty icebox in the back. Filled with the diaries to fill them out, and then went back to scanning. First he got nothing major. Then he picked up a very large reading of ecto energy in one direction. That would be my ecto cooler. He then picked up at least two ghost signatures in another. One of them was nothing more than a classified phantasm, same levels of Slimer, but the other had very high readings. He had to be a 10 easy, if not more.
Winston, head to the east and keep going.
Winston saw how the readers were pointed nearly parallel, showing the high reading Egon had to be getting. He put the siren on the wailing sound, the lights kicked on as he started to speed in the general direction. Egon started to give out directions and soon came up to some type of fast food joint.
You sure this is the place?
Peter asked Egon. People came running out screaming.
Okay, that sells me. Let's sell up and earn ourselves a paycheck.
Peter reached his back for his proton pack. Inside. Danny had just went to his favorite place to have a bite to eat after school with his friends when all of a sudden some ghost showed up. Please tell me it's the box ghost. Please tell me it's the box ghost. It was a strange yellow-looking one. Darn it! You really want to do the voice of the box ghost, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Well, hair just shot up straight up like he had been electrocuted. The ghost was zipping around the area with incredible speed. Danny had gone to the bouncer to go ghost, while Tucker and Sam stuck behind with all the people running about the place. Going ghost! Is it me, or do these guys just seem to be drawn to Danny some days? Tucker asked Sam as they were hiding under a table, since the ghost had opened up with some kind of electrical attacks, as it laughed out loud. Electrical villain. I guess we were due for one of those. It does seem like that, doesn't it? Sam went into digging into her backpack for any ghost hunting supplies he might still have on her. Working with Danny for so long, she had learned to try and keep any of the Fenton ghost equipment she felt could either carry or wouldn't be missed by his parents. She hoped he had something like the Spectre Deflector, Jack-O'-Nine-Tails, or their ghost gloves would be nice too. Fortunately, she couldn't find anything in her backpack. Darn! Tucker, you got any of the ghost gear on you? No, Sam. I think I left everything I had back in my locker at school. He hadn't placed anything on it since he was already busy with all the research. In fact, since the school got attacked, it seemed once a week, he figured it would be handy to keep a locker just in case. Although, now he kind of wished he had a spare thermos with him at this point. That's right, humans. Fear the Electro Ghost! Yellow Guest said to no one in particular. Hey, Sparky, why not try me on for size? Danny fired his ghost area as he hit the ghost, quickly dodged the shot, laughing. Danny kept on trying to hit the ghost, but soon found out ghost moved like electricity as well, didn't help any things. Great. I had to face a ghost that was like trying to catch a kid on a sugar rush. Danny muttered as he flew out of the way of a return attack. This is the great Danny Phantom I heard so much about, the electric ghost gloated. Don't really seem that much to me. Well, yeah. Well, at least I don't look like a freaky banana in spandex. Danny shot back. This only seemed to make the ghost seem a lot more angrier,
as his white eyes took on a sight of electrical discharge.
Oh, you are so going to get... Ah! He shrieked as a cold beverage hit him in the back. He turned to see Sam and Tucker order drinks he threw at the ghost. Hey! Stop that! Danny grinned as his friends helped to keep him distracted and fired his own energy at the electric ghost. The ghost went flying into the table, knocking over, and spilling the contents all over the place as well. Just then, the door kicked in, and walked in 4 men in different colored jumpsuits. You know, normally, I'm excited to see the Ghostbusters, but not right now. One strange device distracted our backs. They held long devices that looked like some kind of weapon. They had a cable running to devices on the back. A faint hum could be heard from them, too. The ghosts, Danny, and his friends looked at the newcomers for a moment, as Peter stepped forward, smiling confident.
Has anyone seen a ghost?
The others were frozen in a moment until the ghost spoke up.
Hey, who the hell are you guys?
We're the Ghostbusters, and we're here to clean up this town. Ray grinned as he aimed his weapon at the ghost. He really loved this part of the job. The ghost, even though never met the Ghostbusters, he had heard of them. No ghost that went up against them was ever seen again for the most part. He had heard how they captured ghosts and locked them up never to be let out. He also heard all the ghosts they had gone up against. They had taken down some heavy hitters. They hadn't gone just after ghosts either. They had gone up against vampires, werewolves, spirits, demons, and even gods. Phantom felt like he was just a kid with ghost powers, but this was totally out of his league. He didn't really want to be captured by them, so he looked at the Ghostbusters, and then at Danny, lost himself at the Ghost Boy. Danny thought he was going to attack again, but he just gripped his suit, pleading,
Take me away now, please, don't let them take me.
the ghost said, and Danny was at a loss. This has never happened before.
Come on, where's that thermos thing?
He started to make a grab, looking for it on Danny.
Hey, stop that, what do you think you're doing?
Danny saw him take the scented thermos. It was frankly trying to activate it.
Come on, how do you have to make this thing work?
Suddenly, he hit the right button. It was sucked up into it. Danny swore the ghost was laughing as he disappeared into it. He got the device, and everyone was looking at the scene, not much certain to make of it. Okay, that was definitely a new one on me. He then looked up at the Ghostbusters. Given the reaction of the ghost, maybe he should look up what his friends had dug up on these guys. Hi? Danny? Run. Now. Fly very fast. Get to a safe place and then morph. The Ghostbusters looked at each other, not sure what just happened.
Any thoughts?
Peter asked them.
Yeah, one down and one to go.
Blast him! Ray said, grinning as his protoplax hung to the life, and he fired twisting energy beam at Danny. As far as Ray figured, it was just one less ghost for him to deal with. Although, it was certainly a strange-looking ghost. It looked almost normal and wasn't just floating there in a strange suit.
Whoa!
Danny nearly missed the beam. He wasn't sure what it would do with him, but he did not want to find out. Great! They just show up, and they're just as trigger-happy as my parents!
Okay, guys, you know the drill.
Peter says he moved to one side. Yeah, divide and conquer. Winston moved off to the other side. Ray took up the center. He got in the middle as he went to scanning the area. He pointed and shouted out where Danny was hiding, and the 3 beams aimed at the area. One went high, and the other went low, and the other in center. They knew well not to cross the streams of energy, since that was very bad, and only as a last resort did they ever actually did cross them. Danny had to face through the floor when it hit him. Why was he running when he could stay like this? He flew up through the floor. Hey, ghost dudes! I don't suppose we could just call it a day, huh?
Let me think about that.
Peter said up to him, looking like he was thinking on it, then shrugged.
Nope, sorry.
He fired his beam, and Danny turned intangible. But when the beam passed through him, it was like his entire body went numb for a second. He was so shocked by it, he lost concentration. It fell through the core counter. Oh man, this is bad! Tucker said in front of his spot out to the side. So far, he'd been ignored by the Ghostbusters for a moment. Got any ideas, Sam? Yeah, give us a distraction for Danny to bolt! The young goth looked around and decided to just run out into the middle of things. Peter was about to clear a shot at Danny when Sam ran into his view and pulled it as aim at the last minute. The beam of energy hit the roof, making a small hole. Hey,
Watch it, kid! I knew he'd find you!
Peter was thankful he had good reaction skills.
Oh my god! You gotta save us! There are ghosts all over the place!
She gussed down like he was putting on a good act. Dexter got what he was doing and ran over to join. Looked over at Danny and gave him a wink as he joined. The Ghostbusters soon found their hands full with the teens, and Danny took his chance to escape. He knew he owed his friends another one, but he was more worried about what happened when that beam had hit him. It was weird, like you get a small electrical shock from your arm, only this was his entire body. He faced through one of the walls and found himself in the back alley. He hit his thermos and turned back to Danny. He reached the door just in time to hear Sam go on about how they got separated from their friend who was still missing. It's okay, we'll find him, Ray said, scanning for the ghosts.
Hey guys!
It's okay, I stuck out the back. Danny walked in, and both Tucker and Sam went over trying to convince the Ghostbusters they were glad to see him.
Well, that's taken care of, but you kids go. We got a little cleanup here to deal with.
Peter told him with a smile.
Oh, sure, we'll be going now, right guys?
Sid said, and both the teens agreed as he went off. Peter looked at the others.
Nice kids, if a bit on the strange side. Now, where's that fascinating victim of a ghost go?
Danny!
I'm not that much of a fashion victim.
Ghostbusters went on searching, but after 10 minutes, Egon checked the area. They found the ghosts had gone. They were disappointed that they had the ghosts get away, but there would be other ghosts. Now that the ghost entities were gone, Egon was still getting a massive reading from one area of the town. It had a strange area, but a strangely familiar one to it.
Guys, I think we should investigate this. I'm still getting a reading here from the looks of it. It reads like some kind of ripple portal in our world. Can't be sure what it is, but it could be some sort of doorway into the supernatural realm.
Think that could be the cause of all the ghosts? Witnessed asked the tall scientist. Egon fixed his red glasses on his face.
Could be something at any rate. We should investigate it.
In one part of the ghost zone stood a massive-looking prison. This was the prison of the ghost known only as Walker. He was the self-proclaimed warden that imposes the laws of the ghost zone, although sometimes it seems only Walker knew the actual laws. In the stone prison in his office was Walker himself, a tall, broad-shouldered ghost, all dressed in white. He had on a suit with a black hat and was looking over the files of new inmates in his prison. So far, it was a good day, but he still had one thorn in his side. Danny Phantom. That boy had not only escaped his prison and his justice, but kept on defying him at every turn. He had even tried to enter the human world, set minions and a prisoner after him, but so far the boy was elusive. It's no wonder Danny had gotten to Walker's #1 spot on his most wanted list. But he put such thoughts aside for the moment. He would deal with Danny later. Being warden of this prison took up a lot of time. That moment, the alarms kicked in as the screeching sound rang throughout the complex. Walker shut up, thinking it was an escape attempt. Well, he would show them, and wouldn't let anyone else escape on his watch. He got into the hall as his deputies were running through the halls.
What is it? What's going on?
He demanded from one of them.
We got a breach. Someone just broke the outer wall and is actually breaking into the prison, sir.
Walker's green eyes narrowed.
So, someone is trying to break out into a friend, huh? Well, it's time to show this ghost that I run this prison, and only I see when someone can leave.
He gathered out several more of his men as he went into the main section, where the prisoners were kept. He expected a full-on riot or escape attempt, but the sight he found stunned him. There were doors ripped open, but all the ghosts were still there. In fact, they were standing there with blank looks on their faces. A closer look showed that they all had black eyes, and their thorns were thinner than normal. He saw one of the inmates, a huge ghost that were now so thin the prison suit was just hanging off of him. They all wore blank expressions on their faces, looking like zombies.
What in the ghost zone is going on here?
He looked over at the prisoners. They didn't even react to his presence.
Fan out! I want to know what's going on here!
There is no need for that. Look, came a cool voice. Walker took a look. There in the shadows, a form emerged. It was in a black cloak. He couldn't see much of the face, but he sensed that he had the same dark eyes as the rest of them. There was also something else. Walker could almost believe that he sensed a stronger power flow off his form.
I don't know who you are, but you're going to spend a lot of time in solitary.
Walker threatened, but the figure just laughed. It was a chilling laugh at that.
Pathetic. You think your kind can stop me? I am the Lord of the Dead, raised once more. I am the dark spectre, ruler of all that is passed on. I am Morbius. The figure told him. Walker wasn't familiar with the term after all. Morbius' name had all been forgotten by history. But it would be a meaning Walker would always remember in the future. Arrest this lunatic! Walker commanded as he and his men ran forward. They fired their ghost arrows at him, but Morbius only raised his hand. It was like he was feeding off of it. Soon, Walker saw what happened to his prisoners when Morbius grabbed one of his men. He cried out as black energy snaked around him. His ghost body started to thin as Morbius drained the ghost. He moved like a shadow without sound, slipped against the wind as he moved among the men. One by one they fell and were drained of their energy, becoming thin as their eyes took on the blackness of the one that had taken their energy. Soon only Walker was left, but he stood his ground. He had his duty, he wouldn't abandon it, even if it looked like he was outclassed. What have you done to them? He looked at the forms of his men. You'll find out. Now, grab him, my minions. Morbius' command, all the other ghosts surged at Walker, totally under Morbius' control. Walker tried to struggle, but more and more ghosts swarmed him until he was being crushed by the weight of them all. He saw the feet of the cloak and looked up at those black, soulless eyes of Morbius. Last thing he remembered was the grayest hand gripping his face. It was cold like death, and he cried out as he felt himself being drained. Not only his energy, but like his mind was being ripped from his body. Then, there was only darkness surrounding him. He was floating in pure darkness with no body, no sound, no nothing. Morbius pulled his way his hand as he looked at Walker, now looking like a shadow of his former self with pure black eyes and a slack, muscleless face. He grinned under his mask, feeling Walker's power flow through him. He was definitely a powerful ghost. He could feel his powers rising. Soon, my minions, I'll have my powers back to their original levels, and even more so. Then, the world of man will once belong to the Dread Lords.
Why do I imagine that this was a actual episode of the show? He would be voiced by Tim Curry. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Chapter 4, Meet the Fence. Danny had just finished putting away the electric ghost into the portal and shut it. He placed his thermos on a counter and looked at his friends. Well, that could have gone better. Yeah, no kidding, man. Those guys were pretty serious. They didn't even let you explain yourself. Tucker was sitting on one of the counters with his legs splitting, with Sam standing close to Danny. Yeah, well, these guys hunt ghosts for a living. I mean, look at your parents, Sam said to Danny. They're to shoot first types, too. Guess it's kind of a facile thing. Danny slumped a bit next to her. Great. That's all I need. And how could those beam things offend me while I'm intangible? I mean, normally, nothing can touch me while I'm like that. He looked to his friends for any kind of explanation. Tucker was digging in his backpack, looking for some notes he found in the Ghostbusters. Well, we really don't know how that phasing powers of yours works, but I did find out those proton packs, which is what they are called, by the way, fire positron ion stream of energy that polarizes with a ghost's negative charged energy. The other two teams just blinked at that. A little explanation went right over their heads, so Tucker decided to simplify it. The beams react to ghost energy, and use that energy to hold the ghosts. So I guess it's that it messes with you even while you're in phase, because your energy is there, only not in phase with the rest of the world. Okay, so basically, stay away from the yellow beam things. Kind of figured that out myself, Danny said, crossing his arms. So, what powers those things anyway? Sam wondered. What kind of power source they had. Maybe they could only use them for a certain amount of time. After all, Danny may need to escape again, and knowing that he had to recharge after a certain point could be powerful. Tucker looked through his notes, sounded a bit nervous. They use an unlicensed nuclear accelerated. What? Those things are nuclear? Sam and Danny shouted at the same time. They couldn't believe someone would run around with a nuke strapped to their backs. That had to be dangerous, and they didn't know what they could be. One single proton pack that went into overload could, in theory, wipe out a few city blocks in New York. It's one of the reasons why the Ghostbusters had had problems in the past with certain agencies. I'm looking at you, prick. Although they could all learn about this later, as Tucker went on to explain a few other things about the gases they had. Such as something called a psychokinetic energy, PKE for short, mirror, endo goggles, and something called a trap, which to Tucker sounded like the Fenton thermos. Danny listened in on all that Tucker was telling them before he had to ask them, "Okay, where did you find all this stuff?" "Oh, the usual. Websites and chat boards. It'd be amazing if the fan base these guys got even had their own webpage. It was pretty detailed. I got everything except the blueprints for their equipment." Tucker smiled proudly at himself. "Way to go, Tucker!" Sam grinned, knowing he should get a little praise for all his work. "Okay, so we got ourselves a group of experienced ghost hunters with major hardware out there to get you and every other ghost in town. Maybe you should lay low for a bit, Danny." However, Danny wasn't so sure about that. Okay, it'd be nice to get a break, and the Ghostbusters could handle things for a bit. When they leave, he could go back to being Danny Phantom after all. But it felt like he was a coward just hiding out like this. And besides, he got used to protecting his hometown. At any rate, his thoughts were interrupted when a doorbell rang. Since his mom and dad were up at the command center at the top of the building, he couldn't get to the door before them. So he decided he figured he might as well get through it. He told the others who went with them. He was thinking what to do with these Ghostbuster types when he opened the door and froze. "Hey, are you the kid from before?" Danny tried to work from his mouth, but looking through this door was the four Ghostbusters. Peter was up front and rang the doorbell. It was the one that at first noticed Danny there. Danny couldn't believe his luck. He was trying to figure out a way to keep his distance from these guys, and they just show up at his front door. "Okay, it's official. My life is cursed. It has to be. No one of this kind of has bad luck going for them." 10 minutes earlier. The Ghostbusters were back in Act 1, driving through the area that Egon was scanning with his PKE mirror. So far, there was no sign of the ghost they had been fighting, and in a town this size, he was wondering how he managed to get out of range so fast. He was thinking back to the fight. Well, there was something odd about that ghost, besides the strange sword he wore. "Did anyone else find out a little strange?" He suddenly asked. "Not really. That is, if you count none of us got slimed." Peter said he was laying back, his hands behind his head, resting. "We went in, did our thing, did a little property damage. The only odd thing was we didn't catch the ghost." "Yeah, that one kinda did the work for us," Winston said while he was driving. "Precisely." Egon had his eyes closed, playing over his head again. "The ghost didn't really attack us. Didn't you notice the device he had? If I didn't know any better, it looked like to be one of our own traps. Why would a ghost have a device like that on him?" Frey was thinking on that now.
You know, it is a bit odd. Plus, usually a ghost is made out of technology if they want to use it, instead of having actual devices.
He thought back to the other ghosts in the past. It was pretty rare for them to have devices. Something that sophisticated was pretty much unheard of.
Hey, wasn't there something about some ghost kid in this city in all your research?
There is something about him, although the reports are a bit strange.
Egon remembered that as part of his research on the town. He's been labeled as both a hero and a villain. At times, he seems to be helpful, but he's also been linked to crimes and other problems.
So in other words, we have no idea if he's harmless like Slimer or just another bad guy.
Winston asked Egon. Peter started his seat.
Hey, after we capture him, we can just ask him. If he's a good guy, then we let him go. No harm, no foul. If not, well, put him with all the others back in New York. Just like that, huh?
Winston asked over his shoulder. Peter grinned and nodded. He shook his head as he quickly went back to his driving and suddenly stopped the car. Everyone pinched forward as Winston looked at the strange building in front of them.
"Hey, Egon, what was the address of that ghost hunting family again?"
Egon fixed his glasses as he looked at the tall building. It looked like someone had modified a small apartment house with all sorts of equipment. There was even a large thing on top that looked like some kind of command center. There was also a large Fenton sign on it.
"Not much for subtlety, are they?"
Peter said, looking at the building. Egon pulled out his PKE mirror and was reading the portal energy inside the building. At least, he was starting to get a good idea of what could be causing the energy. If they were researching ghosts, then he would be, in theory, researching doorways into ghost realms as well. Even though that thing was dangerous, he and Ray had been thinking of making a portal to some realm to dumb ghosts where he couldn't harm anyone. But so far, he hadn't gotten really far. Pierre was already walking towards the door as he looked at the others. Well, let's go looking on him. Might as well get the introduction. Ray then turned to the car. We should leave Slimer inside. I don't think it would be a good idea to have him go in there, in case he decides you want to hurt him. Pierre stopped at his tracks and got a looking grin. Oh, really? Hey, Slimer! The green ghost flew through the top of the car, looking around who called him. Hey, you hungry, Spud? I think I know where you can get a snack. Peter! The three of them said as one. No. Let Danny fry Slimer. I'm perfectly fine. I'm on Peter's side on this one.
Okay. I was just kidding.
Whoa to the Union! He held out his hands.
Forget it, Slimer.
He said to the ghost, who gave a hump and went back into the car. He hated getting worked up over food for nothing. Now he was just getting hungry again. Slimer decided maybe he could go off and explore on his own for a bit. He would find them later. And besides, he was getting hungry and he wanted to find some food. So he slid down in the back while the others went to the front door. Pierre hit the doorbell and just waited. And then he was going to ring the door.
Hey, aren't you that kid from before?
Pierre asked, pointing at him. Young boy seemed to be surprised at the arrival. For a moment said nothing.
You know, when adults ask you something, it's best to answer them, kid.
Pierre grinned, but something seemed to snap him out of his daze. Yeah, it's me. What exactly do you want with my family? He asked the adults.
Well, we were in the neighborhood and decided to check in. A little professional curiosity and all.
Pierre flashed a smile at the boy. Yeah, plus, we were getting some really strange readings for this place, and we wanted to check it out. Ray blurted out, getting all excited again. Pierre palmed his face at Ray's outburst. But then again, he sort of expected this from him. Danny looked at Pierre with a raised eyebrow. Okay, there is that too. I'm not sure my parents, especially my dad, will. Suddenly, Danny was interrupted as his father's voice could be heard yelling out who was at the door. Danny stiffened, not sure what to do, but Pierre walked in, smiling as Jack and Maddie came out to meet them.
Hey there, Dr. Peter Venkman of the Ghostbusters, and this is Dr. Stantz, Spangler, and Winston. Not doctor.
Winston leaned over to Pierre to whisper he wasn't a doctor, but Pierre gave him a small shove, stating he was on a roll. Jack Fenn crossed his chest at him.
Yes, I know all about you. The big shots from New York, who the mayor called in. Well, I'll have you know, mister, that we're ghost experts in this town, and I, for one, intend to show everyone who the real ghost hunters are.
You guys could see that Jack wasn't a friend, and he dealt with dental negative reactions to them before. Pierre knew a winded Ingo when he saw one, placed an arm around the larger man. Hey there, we're not going to move on your turf, big guy. We just hired. It's professional, not personal. But hey, we're mature about this. That's why we're here. We knew that you guys were the best in the area.
You did?
Jack was surprised at this, but pleasingly so. Now he wasn't so convinced, plus he closely regarded them, especially Pierre. Well, of course we did. I mean, we came here, wanted to look up the best to help us out. How about this? You help us out, but you get all the credit after all this. This is your area, and we're just visiting.
All the credit, huh?
Jack rubbed his chin as Pierre winked at the others. The three of them figured out Pierre was just trying to get Jack to lower his guard, so they could look around without any trouble. For Pierre, the fame was as important as the paycheck, so he was willing to let Jack get some of the credits. So, what do you say there, Jack? Can I call you Jack? How about helping us all out? Professional? Pierre gave Jack Fenn his best smile. It stuck out his hand. Jack thought about it, and he shrugged his shoulders. Maybe these guys weren't so bad after all. He gripped Pierre's hand and shook it.
All right, I think I'm big enough man to let you hunt in my area.
He stood up straighter, feeling like he had won one over. Maddie rolled her eyes, knowing what had happened. But as long as it made Jack behave, she could deal with it.
So then, we were wondering if we could get a look around. I'm getting strange energy readings from this house.
He got pulled out the PKE meter. but suddenly found another reading. He pointed to Danny, and was getting a faint energy reading off of him. He looked at the boy, who was looking a bit nervous. Now I thought about it, there's something familiar about him.
Hey, that kind of looks like it when it works with my fitting finder. That is, if I could get it working right.
Jack said, looking at the device.
You're a sucker for new ghost equipment, but the darn thing keeps pointing to Danny. Oh, I forgot to introduce my family. This is Maddie, my wife.
Hello there, she said, looking at the device herself. Had to admit it was nicely crafted.
And this is, of course, Danny, and his friends Sam and Tucker, and hey, where's Jazz?
Jazz looked around. Jazz was in the kitchen taking a break from her studies and wanted a small snack. She had already grabbed the brownie out of the jar that her mother had made. She was going to the fridge and opened it up when she froze. The entire contents of the fridge had mostly been eaten. There was green goo all around it, and there in the center eating up the goo was a small, green, and disgusting-looking ghost.
Tchee! Adieu, Slimer.
She blinked a few times as she wants to eat in the most gross manner. At times it was just inhaling the food without bothering to chew it. Bits of food would slip past his mouth, but suddenly it noticed her. Jazz had faced ghosts before, but this was as much of a shock in her fridge, eating up all her food. Slimer looked at the young redhead and tried to say hello and wave. Jazz weakly raised a hand and gestured, but was attacking her. It was freaking looking.
I was just looking for the milk.
She had no idea why she said that. Jazz was surprised and looked her around and gave her a carton of milk. She gently took it, and then something said to her she couldn't understand, and slammed it for his clothes. Jazz felt something on her hand. It was wet and slimy. When she looked down, there was green slime falling in the carton in her hand. At that point, she screamed out in disgust. Everyone heard Jazz's scream, and Jack and Maddie went into action. They ran into the kitchen, followed by the others.
Jazz, what's wrong? Are we under attack?
Jack said quickly, looking around for anything that looked like a ghost.
Jazz, what is that on your hands? Don't move, it might be contagious.
Her mother said, taking a closer look at the slime. Jazz hadn't thought of that, and she was more worried about the ghost in his fridge.
Mom, there's something in the fridge.
Well then, no ghost is going to haunt my fridge and possibly contaminate my daughter with some kind of evil ghost goo that may turn her into some mindless ghost slave,
Jack announced.
Ghost slave?
Jazz paled and looked at her hand. She was looking at the slime on her hand. Wasn't too familiar with what ghosts could actually do, but she did remember Danny explaining how he could overshadow people. Maybe her father's ranting wasn't too far off.
Don't worry, dear. We'll just isolate you and see if there's anything wrong,
Maddie said kindly in a normal voice.
And as for you, Mr. Ghost,
he whipped open the fridge. Ah! Huh, where's the ghost? Inside the fridge looked like to be covered in slime. There was no food left at all. Not even his fetid jerky was left.
It's just jerky. Ah, but it's jerky with the word fettin on it.
The fridge itself was a mess.
What kind of blue blazes ghost would have done this?
Ray saw the fridge and the slime, and he knew right away what was going on. Oh no, looks like slime. Peter covered Ray's mouth with his hand as he got a plan. Huh, looks like you now got a ghost. Hey, how about we split up and track it down? I mean, we could cover more ground that way.
Now, there's an idea, and Maddie needs to take a look at Jazz anyway. We'll go to up there. Danny, do you think you can help shoulder around down there while we try and help your sister find the ghost?
Jack looked at Danny, who sighed, wondering how he kept getting these messages.
Sure.
Yes, my boy. Hurry, Maddie, before the goose starts affecting Jazz's mind.
They rushed Jazz off, even though she was saying that she was totally fine. But their parents weren't really listening. Now Danny looked at the four adults as they were arguing about something called Slimer. He hadn't been really paying attention at first, although Ray, the redhead Ghostbuster, looked worried, but Peter kept insisting that this Slimer would be okay. It was most likely eating a hot dog vendor out of business down the street. Although he was so caught up in his work to work out what they were saying, he didn't notice Egon was taking readings at him. Egon looked at the boy. So far, he was reading like a possessor, some kind of this reading he hadn't seen before. Only once, during the Gozer incident, when a mild-mannered man was host to a powerful spirit that was the Game Master.
So, I think you guys want to look around?
Danny asked.
Yes, I was wondering if you knew of any energy portal, vortex, or some type of doorway of a supernatural nature on this premises.
A what? Dang, yes, that's not what you meant at first. I think he's talking about the ghost portal.
Tucker explained. That got everyone's attention.
Ghost portal? Can we see this?
Ray asked the boy, and Danny guessed he might as well, since they knew something like that. It wasn't a big secret, although he did notice the blonde one with the glasses was looking at him, almost stunning him in a way.
Yeah, sure, it's in the basement. Come on, it's this way.
Danny walked into the stairs. Chapter 5. Not So Secret Identity. The Ghostbusters were led into the basement, and it was a surprising sight. There were all sorts of equipment and gear laying out all over. On one wall, there looked like a giant door with thick metal sliding doors over it. Looking all over the equipment, trying to figure out what it was. Egon was taking a much more subdued look around, as he was interested as well. Peter and Winston looked around, but they weren't much into the technical stuff, although some of the ghost gear was strange looking. Winston looked at what looked like to be a giant dreamcaster of some kind, and wasn't sure what it was used for. Egon was already walking towards the portal, as he took out his BKE meter. It was definitely the same readings he was getting at, that was for sure. Plus, he was picking up two other readings. He knew one of them was most likely Slimer, but the other was in the room. He glanced at Danny for a moment, trying to figure something out. Plus, there was something nagging about him by his boy as well. So, Danny, is that the ghost portal? Egon asked the young man.
Yeah, my parents made it to look into the ghost zone, he explained. Ghost zone?
Ray walked over curious about it.
Sounds like some kind of supernatural realm. Most likely one of the places ghosts can travel to. Wait, one of? As in more than one?
Tucker asked the adult.
He and the others had always thought the ghost zone was the only place like it, that all the ghosts were from that place. Even said as much to Ray. Actually, there are many kind of realms, some of them not always inhabited by ghosts, but other supernatural forces, Ray explained to them. Other supernatural forces? What other supernatural forces are you talking about?
Sam asked, wondering what else was out there. Sure, there were ghosts, but he had all seen so far.
Well, let's see. There are the usual stuff. Beings who are manifestations of ideas, emotions, concepts. I guess they can be close to godlike in a way. Then you get to the actual gods. Then you get demons, entities that don't really fall into any other category. Then you get the different types of ghosts, such as specters, phantoms, poltergeists, and spirits. There are different kinds of ghosts?
Danny never heard his parents say anything about that. Not that he noticed. Yes. You see, each manifestation is different. Some ghosts retain their human qualities as they have unfinished business. Others have de-evolved into other forms that are just born. Some are just born out of ecto energy in whatever form they were near, or what the catalyst of their creation was. Egon gave a few examples as he was studying the equipment.
So, you basically fight all sorts of things and other stuff that come from different places into the ghost zone?
Sam summarized. They were saying to them all. It was kind of a new look on things, that was for sure. They thought they had all figured it out with the ghost zone, but like a ghost zone was just one more piece in a larger puzzle.
So, you guys fight anyone famous like Elvis?
Okay, I'll play the clip. Where's Elvis, and have you seen him? No, we never met the king, Pierce said, picking up something, and then thought it might be safer to pull it down. He didn't know what it was, and he learned it wasn't a smart thing to do around Egon's stuff. Face a few guys like the spirit of Halloween.
Fright Night?
Danny asked this, got confused with the others. How familiar are you with Fright Night? Egon asked him.
Danny started to think of something fast. When your parents are into ghosts, you tend to pick up a few things here and there.
Egon thought it over and seemed to accept it. Well, I read about him. He was actually created by the original ghost of Halloween named Sam Hain. From what I read in Torben's Spirit Guide, he was his servant. But when there was an uprising to steal Sam Hain away, his knight turned on him and cast him to a stone tablet to steal him away. Before he was sealed, Sam Hain cursed his knight to be banished, since if his sword was ever put into a pumpkin, and the curse said out loud, For a while, Fright Night then took over the role of Spirit of Halloween, but was later banished from this realm by the curse.
Oh, I so do love it when we mix mythologies. Dan and the others looked at each other. Well, that did explain how the Fright Night got that weakness, that was for sure. So, anyone else? Danny asked the adults, wondering what else he could learn. Well, there was the boogeyman, Ray said. Oh, come on. You don't expect us to believe that, do you? Sam scoffed at something only kids believed in. Wait, was he like really large with a big head, long ears, beady eyes, long teeth, and cloven feet? Tucker asked them all.
Yeah, at least he was until we put him into the containment unit.
Pierce smirked over that little victory. Ha! Tucker pointed at Sam and Danny. I told you the boogeyman was real, and you all laughed at me when I said he lived in my closet when I was 7. Okay, we owe you one. Let's not forget they did take down the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. Sam sighed as he looked at the Ghostbusters. By the way, how can you guys justify hauling around nuclear devices? Don't you know what that stuff could do to the environment? Well, there isn't an energy source powerful enough besides it, and there isn't any waste. We made sure of it, Ray told the young Goth.
Yeah, besides, we didn't want to have to glow green at night from all the nuclear waste we had to keep in the basement anyway.
Pierre joked. Winston was looking all around this when he came to a table with a device on it. He picked it up and surprised to see it was the same thing that the ghost kid had. He walked over to Pierre while Ray and Egon were talking to the kids.
Hey, Pete, look at this, man. Isn't this what the ghost kid had on?
Pierre looked at it and had to admit it was.
That's odd. Why would a ghost have equipment on from here? May, the ghost is working for them, or maybe.
Winston turned to Danny. There had been something odd about the kid. He looked familiar in some way, but he couldn't quite place it just yet.
Peter, doesn't the kid remind you of someone?
Oh, so it's not just me. He was relieved to hear that he had been bugging him since he had seen the kid at the door.
Yeah, I think the kid isn't being too forward with us.
Want to play bad cop, good cop?
No, because you always get to be the bad cop.
Okay, how about the slip and suckle treatment?
Peter, they're just kids.
Right. How about we do a forward blitz?
Okay, that may work. Let me guess. You want to take my lead?
As long as you're offering. Peter smiled as he led the way.
Okay, kids. Time for you to all come clean.
What do you mean? Danny asked an adult. Then Winston came up and stole the thin thermos. Danny suddenly got a bit nervous. He knew that they had seen the device and he'd forgotten it was down here.
Let's see. We find a ghost and he's using equipment from the lab. Now, your parents don't seem to be the friendly kind towards ghosts, so I don't think they know.
Peter crossed his arms, trying to stare down the kids a bit.
So then, how could a ghost have gotten that equipment?
Actually, I would also like to know one thing. Egon walked over to Danny and ran the PKE meter over him. The air saw a device started to beep like it was taking a reading off of him. I've been getting ether readings off of you. It reads like something out of possession, but nothing I've ever seen before. Danny and the others gave each other quick looks. This was bad. Sir, Danny had come close to losing his secret before, once the entire world did know. It was only through the reality gems that he was able to undo all the damage. He looked at Sam, but didn't seem like he had any ideas. Neither did Tucker. Winston stepped forward and decided to need a gentle hand to prod them along.
Look, kids, there's obviously something going on here. Now, we were sent to this town to help it. If there's anything you could tell us, we'd appreciate it.
Winston was the type of guy you could trust. He had a nature about him. You could see the kids were thinking things over.
I'm sure you kids have your reasons, but we really need to know what's going on in this town.
Danny looked at his friends and then to the adults. Can you give us a minute? The Ghostbusters shrugged. He figured it was worth it. As he moved to one area of the lab, while the 3 teens got into huddle but said in lower voices. Oh man, this is bad. How can we get out of this one? Danny asked him. So far these guys were a lot smarter than those guys in white and other hunters. They already had a few pieces, and it wouldn't be too long before they figured out the whole truth. I honestly don't know, man. I mean, they kinda got us red-handed, Tucker said. Sam sighed, not seeing getting out of the way of this. Maybe we should come clean?
I mean, they seem okay. Maybe they'll be cool with the whole half-ghost thing. You mean the same guys that shot at me earlier today without so much as a hello? Dave said sarcastically. Okay, I know, but if they know what's really going on, maybe it'll make things easier. Besides, can you think of some way to explain all of this? If it was just the equipment, then we could say we're helping the ghosts. But how do you explain why you're getting off ghost readings? Sam asked him. Danny had to admit he had no way out of it. At least with his parents, Danny didn't have to worry. They just thought their ghost detecting gear wasn't working when it pointed to him. But he doubted he could sell that to them. He looked at Tucker. What do you think? Might as well give it a shot. Got nothing else to lose. Danny sighed, guessing that he was really in a corner with this one. The teens broke up and walked over to the adults. Danny took charge and wanted to set down some terms. Okay, we'll talk. But there are a few things. First, don't ever tell my parents about this. If he wants to tell them, I will. But when and if I ever do, I want it to be on my terms, okay?
Kid, we've seen it all. Shows what you got.
Peter said confidently. Danny grinned. Oh yeah? Then check this out. A going ghost! And with that, Danny started his transformation as he changed to Danny found. Well, what do you think of this? He said smugly.
Then noticed they were hardly reacting.
He couldn't believe it. Normally something like this, people would have given a large reaction.
Egon was already taking readings, muttering about how fascinating it was. Ray was getting at the sight.
The others looked mildly interested. Oh, come on! You're telling me this isn't cool, or interesting, or I don't know, neat?
Danny asked him. Kid, we've been around. Our first major bad guy was a Sumerian god that turned 2 people into dogs, made a 50-foot marshmallow man, and blew off the top floors of a New York high-rise.
Peter said, recounting the first major fight.
And then there was the Bermuda Triangle, a town of werewolves and vampires, demons, an army of trolls, army of ghosts, and let's not forget the Doomsday Door that's only supposed to be opened at the end of the world, but of course some idiots opened it. We get the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, giant mantis things, someone with a flute once nearly destroyed the entire planet, Sandman, we were put on trial by ghosts, seeing an entire house that was one big ghost, and well, you get the idea.
You mean they kicked the ass of the Amityville Horror?
I gotta watch that episode.
And this is why JMS is one of my writing gods.
Danny was floating in midair, surprised by all this as the other were too.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff you've seen, Danny admitted.
Hey, it's like no other job on the planet.
What's a smile at the kid?
So, how exactly did you get like this?
Danny went to the long story about how he got zapped by the ghost portal. As far as you could tell, it made him half ghost. He could use his power even in his human form, but he seemed more powerful as his alter ego, Danny Phantom.
Wait a minute. You call yourself Danny Phantom, and no one has figured out the similarity to your looks to Danny Phantom.
Egon asked him, surprised at that. He had to admit, it did explain why he felt Danny looked familiar in his ghost form. It was pretty identical. Well, no, not really, he shrugged.
You know what this reminds me?
Peter said, looking at the others.
When I got superpowers and tried my hands at being a superhero.
You got superpowers? Tucker asked excited.
Had. Past tense, and thankfully Peter no longer has them.
Egon sighed, remembering that little episode of their lives.
Pierre's ego is big enough to add being a superhero, and he had us climbing the walls. Hey, I wasn't that bad.
Pierre said, defiance crossing his arms.
Yes, you were!
All 3 of them said at once. So, you guys don't want to dissect me or something? Danny said, relieved at that.
No, we're scientists. We would never do that. Egon assured him, although I was wondering if I could study this. This is the only case of a human ghost merging in such a way. Truly unique event, and one that I have no idea will ever be duplicated.
Danny's friends shared a look. You might be a bit wrong about that, Sam said to Egon. Danny nodded, thinking about Vlad. Yeah, you see, turns out I'm actually the second half out there. There's one other person. I think you guys need to know about Vlad Masters, or as he goes by, Vlad Plasmius. Majorly evil guy has been a pain in my butt for some time now. Not to mention an unhealthy obsession with your mom, Tucker supplied, earning him a scowl for Danny.
I get the feeling this is going to be a long story,
Winston said, taking a seat.
knowing that this could take some time to hear out the entire thing. Vlad was back in his mansion in his human form. He had work to do. Running a multi-million-dollar empire took a lot of his time, but thankfully over the years, he learned how to handle things well enough. He pulled on his suit to make it a bit more straight. With his body, he walked over to his secret lab. It was dark and gloomy and a bit on the cliché side, but how an evil villain's lair looked like it would work for him. Suddenly, he had two white circles form around his waist as he moved over his body. Then he transformed to his alter ego, Vlad Plasmius. He looked at the monitors, and they were against one wall. There were many different things on them, and he was looking for new signs of Danny. He was also looking for signs that his new acquisition had started to attack Danny. So far, it was all quiet. Too quiet. Where is that lousy ghost? He muttered to himself, thinking of using the caller device, making his ghost know he was being summoned. Right here, came the creepy voice from the darkness. Vlad turned to see the dark figure emerge from the deep shadows that were all over his lab. I have been gathering my energy and my forces for the coming battle. You wanted to see my power, and I'm nearly ready. Soon the boy will learn just what has he gotten himself into. Forces? What forces? Vlad asked. Through his ghost portal, he came to look like a small army of zombie ghosts. He raised an eyebrow in surprise. This hadn't been a text he had found. But a grin crossed his face. It was most welcome surprise. Well, now I've seen you've been very busy. Dandy Phantom doesn't stand a chance against all those ghosts. Morbius turned about Vlad as he went on in a rant. He couldn't believe such a fool awakened him and placed his crystal device around his neck. But he could feel the ecto energy coursing through his body, feeding him. He would soon have the power to overcome this device. And so far, every time he tested or used his powers on it, it would give him tremendous pain. The human world had changed since his time. Humans were becoming more and more powerful, it seemed. He remembered a time when he was feared and worshipped. His power was a force to behold. Many offered to serve him for the promise of life after death. He did it to give it to them, but they were always changed to his servitude. Soon those old days would return. He didn't feel that his powers used to walk the earth anymore. Their spiritual powers seemed to have diminished over time. This would mean less opposition to conquer this realm, and the Ghost Zone. But why stop there? There were many worlds and realms he could open gateways to, and this new technology was something interesting. This Ghost Portal, for instance. Perhaps he could learn or gain a minion that could modify to reach the other realms.
Well, it was another plan for another day. He liked to see the foolish half-moral going on and on about that child again. Morbius couldn't wait to have the power to shut the fool up. But he wasn't ready. Not yet, anyway. But he was getting there. So then, I think it's time for you to meet Danny, Morbius. Vlad turned to Ghost. Morbius nodded silently. As you wish. With a gesture, he opened a portal of his own that was red and orange vortex as he and the ghost walked through it. The portal would take them right to Empty Park where the boy was living at. Vlad grinned as he looked at the portal. He hadn't known that Morbius could do that either. Well now, aren't we full of surprises? But I must say this is a very interesting trick. Wonder if I could get him to make those for my business trips. It would certainly save time, and those damn jets are fuel hogs. With prices for oil nowadays, makes you think of alternatives. He said, merely talking to himself like he liked to do. We are evil and have no real minions around. It was kind of something that developed over time, but never really noticed. He went into the main monitors. As he clicked on the surveillance, he had painfully set up around Empty Park. The show would start. He wanted to have a front row view when Morbius made his presence known. He was eager to see how Morbius would do, and he lived up to all the hype about in this book. Okay, I'm going to stop here, but don't worry, folks. I think I know what I'm doing for October. This thing, just too cool to not continue. So look for the rest come October. See you then. That was one down. Thousands more to go. I'll see you next time.